Welcome to Astro Detectives, the show where we try to match our guests to their correct astrological birth chart. As always, we have two charts to choose from, and today our guest is either a Cancer or a Taurus. I'm Scott, a skeptic of astrology, and I'm joined by my co-host and professional astrologer, Sarah Hartshorn. Sarah, this is normally where I ask you to kind of break down the differences between a Cancer or a Taurus, but this time I think we have a little bit more explaining to do.
We do, Scott.
What happened this episode?
There was an eclipse, Scott. We got eclipsed.
So our guest this week is Roxanne, and we had a lovely interview with Roxanne. She was giving us all of this great insight, and
She had a very interesting life.
Yeah, wonderful interview. She was very helpful. No fault of Roxanne. It was just the fact that the record button didn't get pressed at the beginning of the conversation. And so this episode, we're going to try and give you a lot of the information that we got during that wonderful interview. I cannot stress how great the interview was, and we can really hype it up since nobody will ever fact check this. It was lost in time. Luckily, we did record the debrief, however, and we're going to go ahead and attach that debrief to the end of this episode, but it's going to be Roxanne and us kind of going over what happened in the interview, a little bit of a recap, and then, where we were right or wrong. And we will still have a reveal at the end, or towards the end.
Yes, because I took very good notes, as I usually do. So what I will do is I will just read off to our listeners, so that you can still play this round. And I'll share the notes that I have on Roxanne, and you can still take a guess and leave us a comment if you got it right or wrong.
And we're going to try and speak about it as neutrally as possible so that you don't know, A, which chart it is, and B, whether or not we got it right or wrong this week. We're going to meet for our little huddle at some point during this interview and kind of compare where we were leaning, and then make our choices, and then we'll reveal whether or not we were right or wrong. And then at the end of that episode, you'll actually hear from Roxanne as we do the debrief. So Sarah, back on track, a Taurus and a Cancer, what were we looking for when we had this guest on?
Well, first of all, I just want to let everyone know that you can get a copy of these charts at AstroDetectivesPod.com, and we have them available there for you to download in whole sign or Placidus. If you sign up for our Patreon, you can get the extended, birth data, so you can plug it into your own system. So I don't know if I want to. Let me just say what the big three are, but I don't think I want to talk about what we'd be looking for, because I don't want to give anything away.
All right.
So
I might be able to be a little neutral too, so I can say maybe some of the stuff we were looking for.
If you want to, yeah.
If I want to. I can make a case for both charts.
Sure.
I like making a case for both charts.
Yeah. I don't think I can do it right now, but I'll tell you what the big three are. So our Taurus sun is a Capricorn rising and an Aries moon. And then our Cancer sun is a Leo rising with a Aquarius moon.
All good stuff.
I'm not going to say any more about it.
Sometimes we like to say, do we have any Taurus or any Cancer areas of our life where we feel especially like that kind of energy? I'm all hopped up on coffee right now, and I don't think either one of that's Aries energy. but Cancer, I'm moved by certain music. Certain songs will actually make me feel emotional. And when we did our Cancer playlist, it was really fun picking songs that kind of choke me up a little bit. And I like
Mm-hmm.
that feeling of a song reaching into your chest and just making you feel all the emotions. So
Yes.
that makes me feel especially like that kind of Cancer emotional energy, where normally we might be closed off with our little shell, but it takes a good movie or a good song or whatever you're into. It's fun to have that inner kind of emotion tapped into, and you just go, "Oh my goodness!"
That was one of my favorite playlists that we did was Cancer because it lends itself so well to music because it's really about like love and devotion and caring for others and nurturing. So
Hmm.
there's a lot of songs you can get out of that energy.
Yeah. Is there any area of your life where you're at your most Cancer energy?
Um, I think like that's a good question. Um, well, Cancer is associated with um taking care of people and especially through like food, like, cooking to take care of them. I think that I enjoy cooking for people, but I feel like a lot of the Cancer stuff I would like to express and be really in my feels, especially um with another, but I can't I don't have a lot of experience in that realm. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
But
I think
yeah,
I have a lot of Cancer potential.
you
But
put that on your resume. I have Cancer
yeah.
potential.
Yeah. Cancerian potential, I should say. Um,
Yeah, you don't want to hear your doctor say you have
you
Cancer
know what?
potential.
I will say this. And then now I wish I hadn't said any of that, but
It's
but
okay. I forgot to hit record, Sarah. We're fine.
I will say that when I am feeling attacked, I am reactive and protective and my that I try to remain calm and pretty even keeled and even headed, but when I feel threatened or attacked, that's kind of when my Mars in Cancer comes out.
Oh, so when your shell is being picked at, then I didn't even think of Cancer as being emotional in the sense that you can be sensitive to critique or sensitive to pushback. That's
Well,
kind of a Cancer
yeah.
thing.
Yeah, it's Cancer is very protective
But
and it's protective of itself and it's whatever it considers part of its tribe or whatever what it loves. So I do get very protective of not just myself, but also astrology. And so,
and
um,
I'll be picking. I'll
yeah,
be
I
picking
know.
on the show.
And I strive though not to be reactive. I wish I could just be like, shrug things off. And certain things I can if I don't feel like threatened or something I love is threatened, but
In some ways,
yeah.
that's a good thing because I think it means you care. Sometimes when people shrug things off, it means I don't think they value what the other person is saying. You know,
Well,
like
I
if they're
think,
just like,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, agree to disagree, whatever, then I feel like, well, did what I say like have no meaning? So there's some like way that I do appreciate when somebody takes a critique seriously, but then obviously you don't want it to turn into like an emotional protectiveness. And
Well,
I feel like that's that middle
yeah.
road that we're always going for. Like I don't want something to make me angry or agitated, but I do want to respond to it in a serious manner and not just brush it off.
I think when you have a sense of security and confidence in yourself, you're not as easily threatened by someone disagreeing with you, and that's what I strive for. Because like when I do lash out, it's because I feel like something was triggered or a sensitivity was poked at, and I'll always do a lot of reflecting after and like, you know, I would like to be someone who is not so easily threatened or triggered, by certain things. Like someone, you know, criticizing um, astrology.
Well, I'm here to help you practice that skill. I feel like we help each other practice that skill.
Yeah, I try.
I
Yeah.
actually just wrote a note. I have these like little pieces of advice on my monitors, and one of the notes that I wrote from this book that I'm reading, true independence means the ability to relate closely with others while maintaining your sense of self, being
Hmm.
fully you while being fully in union with others. So being able to like not feel like opening up and really connecting with what this other person is saying or believing is going to affect, you, it's not going to change you. You are you. Like you said, that certain confidence, um, and you can still be your independent self and not fear that whatever this person is adding is going to like take that away.
I like that.
So I'm practicing that too, enough that I put it on a little note. But moving on to Taurus, how confident is a Taurus? And where do we feel like do they have some of those same insecurities?
Taurus is an earth sign, whereas Cancer is a water sign. Water is the realm of emotion. Taurus, earth is the realm of the material world. Um, so I would say every Taurus is going to have a different the energy of Taurus is not necessarily super emotional. That's not to say Tauruses aren't emotional because it depends on their moon sign, but um the energy of Taurus is, or the archetype is grounded and it's about stability. So the moon actually, which is our emotions, is exalted or benefits from Taurus energy because it provides stability, you know, instead of like Cancer, where it's very really feeling the feelings. But Tauruses are known for being dependable and reliable, and hardworking. And they are also very much about Taurus is very closely associated with having a lot of preferences and opinions. You know, they like what they like, and they often can um like things like their food a little bit on the bland side sometimes, I've noticed, or I don't know, maybe not so much bland, but a little bit more like, yeah. Yeah, I would say maybe a little bit more bland or vanilla.
That's a new one. I hadn't heard that. I
Yeah.
heard savoring their food, like really enjoying.
It is associated with food. So they do like to indulge in food. But they are kind of, I would say they like what they like, and they're not always known to be as adventurous. They kind of, because it's a sign that's very like reliable and predictable, and
Uh,
so they kind of like consistency.
that's
And
funny
so
because sometimes we ask questions like, "Would you consider yourself a foodie?" Or do you like to try different types of food? And when they say yes, that makes me think more Taurus. But you would say that maybe they would have more of a restricted palette of things that they prefer and stick to rather than wanting to try a lot of things on the menu.
again, yeah, it just depends because I do know Tauruses that are adventurous. So it's not every Taurus, but there is definitely a, that is a trait that you often see with Taurus placements is liking consistency, liking what they like and not really wanting to deviate from that. They might really love uh, you know, a chicken sandwich or something, and they will, whatever restaurant they go to, they're going to try and find that on the menu kind of thing. So they really, yeah, it's because they deal with the material world and food and resources, and so they're going to have some strong preferences when it comes to that stuff.
Well, where do we find Taurus energy in our lives? My initial thought is my morning cup of coffee is my moment to sit and savor, and it grounds me. It like each sip I'm trying to appreciate the like if you make a good cup of coffee and you sit there and notice the flavor of it, notice the temperature, and just sit with that and enjoy it from start to finish. I feel like that's a Taurus kind
Yeah.
of
Taurus
habit.
is very related to peace and it luxuriating. I love luxuriating. I will say that. I love my morning cup of coffee. I love just peace and quiet, candlelight, all the Taurus is also very much related to the five senses, and the sensory experience. And they like soft things and candles and beautiful music. And yeah, I love indulging in all that stuff and creating a sense of peace in my home. And I get really ticked off when I have a loud neighbor, you know, or there's
Hmm.
kids screaming outside. It really throws my sense of peace off, and I don't like it.
Well, we mentioned the big three. Our listeners might have the charts in front of them, or they said, you know what? I'm happy just comparing Cancer and Taurus. Do we want to maybe start recapping some of the interview that we had with Roxanne? And listeners can piece together where it fits or doesn't fit with either Cancer and Taurus or the entire charts if they're looking at them at home.
Yeah. And so I have I'll go over my list of notes, and if you have any insights or memories, just jump in with more detail. But yeah, Roxanne was so she's from, or she lives in now, um Sheboygan? Is that, am I saying that right? Wisconsin?
That sounds,
Sheboygan?
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Which is such a fun word. And I feel like after our interview, that word kind of got stuck in my head. Sheboygan. Um, she's lived a number of different places. She did move around a lot earlier in her life. She said she lived in Connecticut, Texas, New York, Utah, and Washington. Um, but I think she uh we asked her, do you move around a lot? And she says not anymore. For work, she's a retail manager. I'm not really sure of what store or if she said that, but so she leads a team of people. She says she's a natural leader and she doesn't really, I think she does best when she's in a leadership position, and she kind of clashes when she's got authority over her. So she doesn't really like authority, she said. Um, and she kind of clarified or gave more information around that. She says she has a hard time with bullies. She doesn't like that. She said people would describe her. I can't remember if she said that was how people described her, or she would describe herself as being very protective, guiding, and trying to build people up. Did
Yeah,
you?
mother-like or
Yes.
motherly,
Yeah.
empathetic was
Hmm.
something that friends described her as. Back to her at work, every shift she leads a team meeting where she is talking to the group of people in sort of a presentation kind of way, which she said she enjoys. I, I felt like that was a component of her job that was important.
Hmm.
Oh, and
She,
she drives, right? Wasn't it a overnight driving?
well, that was a previous job, I believe. She
Hmm.
said she was an overnight cab driver.
That was an interesting career. Yeah,
Yes, and she said that that was something notable from that was that she was doing that while the PGA came through that area, and she was giving there. So she said she interacted with a lot of famous people, including Keith Urban, and she had her son in the car, and there was a story about how her son accidentally or intentionally, I'm not sure, poked Keith Urban in the eye.
The son was very young and in a car seat or in a like kind of crib and so that makes it a little more understandable. This was
Okay.
a baby age child.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Okay. She has a really she described her work schedule as not being that healthy because she said, um, so I guess I should also set up the fact that she has 8 children. She has 8 children and she works like an overnight schedule and she called herself a night owl and she doesn't really get like a full night's sleep, it sounds like. She says she kind of described her schedule as coming home from work. I think it's a late shift. I don't know. I guess, yeah, she works
Overnight.
overnights. So I'm like, what retail? Maybe it's like a Walmart or something. I don't know. She didn't say, but
Hmm.
um, I was just trying to think like what retail is overnight. Anyway, so she will, work these overnights and then she'll come home and she'll, I guess, crash for a bit, but then wants to be, she doesn't want to have no daylight. And also, she needs to be in her kids' lives and take care of them. So she doesn't really get a ton of sleep. She also said she's very restless and it's hard for her to sit still. And she'll be cleaning. And she says, I will wake up 3 to 4 hours before work and she will clean and like do chores and things like that. So she doesn't really have a consistent schedule. She's a little bit of like uh, you know, when she works, she has to work overnight, but then when she's off, she kind of tries to transition to daytime, and kind of all over the place. So,
And she likes the night shift. She likes the night time.
yeah.
The peace and quiet of the rest of the world not infringing.
She said she likes, yeah, where did I have that? Oh, yeah. She said she finds the darkness calming, is what she said.
And
Um,
sort of related to that, but not to get into your medical astrology area, but she's allergic, has a slight allergic reaction to sunlight,
hmm hmm
which is a good reason to prefer the nighttime.
hmm
I'm a little sensitive to sunlight. I'm a pretty pale person, but she'll actually get kind of like a skin outbreak a little bit when sunlight touches
hmm
her. We
Yeah.
obviously had to question whether or not she was a vampire and how that happens. They just start
hmm
smoking when the
hmm
sunlight touches them. It wasn't
Yeah.
that dramatic, but
Yeah. She also mentioned she has a tattoo of the sun, and
if you
around
can't beat
it,
them, join them, you know?
yeah, and around it she has her children's names, but she said hasn't gotten them all done yet, so I think she only had like 6 of them on there or something. Um, we did ask her a little bit about her spouse. She is separated from her spouse, but they still live under the same roof because of financial reasons and probably, um, with all the children and everything. She did not talk too much about her spouse, but she did describe him in a couple of adjectives as pessimistic and rude. Um, and he works, I think, in factories or something like that. She said they met when they were younger. And I said, what drew you to him when you first met him? And she said he was nice. So that was the extent of what we got
So
about.
he changed in her eyes at least. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Um, we talked about how people call her a mom. I mean, not just for being a mom, but I think maybe in probably work or things like that.
And she's very
Um,
protective of her home and
mhm.
space. Who she welcomes into her home is very controlled. Like,
Yes. And yeah, it sounded like I didn't write any notes about this, but I think she's kind of likes to more have just like close friends and family come over. And like, I mean, I guess that's what you basically said. She doesn't really like having strangers come over.
yeah, you kind of have to earn her trust and then she'll welcome you in.
Hmm Um, she did say that she thought because you were asking her kind of like what skills did she think she brings to the table, and she said that she thinks she would make a good therapist because she's good at catching patterns and she has a sixth sense about people and is very empathetic.
Reading people. Yeah, she's good at reading people,
Mm-hmm.
which helps her at work now too, but obviously it would help for a therapist as well.
Mm-hmm. She had a really fascinating upbringing where she talked about the carnival life. And I don't, I could have like probably talked to her for like a couple hours on that. So I didn't really get to ask everything I wanted to about that, but she, did say that it was a very predatory environment and that she did have some trauma in her childhood related to abuse. And as far as her parents, she did indicate that they're both deceased now, but her mother suffered from schizophrenia and her father, I forget her commentary on him. I know she said she didn't I don't think she knew who her father was for a little while, and then he kind of came into her life later. And something about an uncle um that uh I think was in her life, but she didn't know it was her uncle or something at the time. So there wasn't a whole lot of information there that we went over. Um she talked about liking Fleetwood Mac and good music, dancing and singing. She's a homebody, but not afraid of large crowds. I don't remember that, but I wrote that down. Um,
She was a bit of a thrill seeker, wasn't she?
yeah, I asked her if she was the type of person who would jump out of an airplane, and she said absolutely.
Which surprised both of us.
It did surprise me. And she said that at work there's this, I forget what the word she used, but it sounded like scaffolding or like a machine that maybe one of those machines that raises you up or something. She said she would get up really high on that, and someone that she works with doesn't is afraid of heights,
It was
and
her
she's
boss.
not. Oh yeah, and she's not afraid of heights. So she will get up on this thing real high and then she'll like shake it back and forth. And it like drives him crazy. So yeah, it sounds like she's a real daredevil. Um, so you asked her about self-care, and she said she likes to take Epsom salt baths, and she also likes camping. But that's where she kind of said, "Well, I do have an allergy to the sun." Um, and so that sometimes that's an issue when.
Because she loved outdoors. She loved nature, but having an allergy to the sun really restricted that.
Mhm, mhm. Um, she likes to, I think we asked her about hobbies and she likes to crochet stuffed animals. Um, I asked her, I think the question was like, I asked her what are her pet peeves or what, or I think I asked her if she cries a lot. Um, and she said not really movies, but I think she said the note I have is thinking about the injustice and the current state of the United States makes her emotional, I think, is what she was saying. Um, I also asked her if she was accident prone, and she said not like when she's driving a car, but yes, she trips on stuff a lot. Um, then we got into her health, and she said that she was diagnosed with lupus, which is an autoimmune condition. We were talking about how she is allergic to the sun. The lupus, I guess, especially bothers her in the winter. With the sun, she said that she will break out in hives. Um, so I think that was the extent of the health stuff. Um, I think I did ask her if she had any issues with her ankles, or legs or something. I can't actually remember if I actually asked that or if the answer was no. She said, I think you asked her if she had a theater background.
Oh yeah, she was in theater in school, and because I was based on some of the signs involved in her chart, I was trying to establish like how she feels on stage. And she's
Hmm.
like, "Oh yeah, I loved being in theater in school." And then I said, "Oh, on stage?" And she was working on the crew because she was very afraid of getting on stage, but really wanted to be. And then that contrasts with her today, where she says she feels much more comfortable performing in front of others, like at the work team meetings. But then she likes the idea of like coming on a podcast or you know being in front of an audience in some way. Not that she's doing it though, but she was like, I like that idea.
Hmm. Um, yeah, I wrote down behind the scenes in theater. It's like I think she worked more on the crew, perhaps.
Hmm.
So, and I don't know if we said this, but she said she likes to drive fast. Okay, some of my notes are a little bit out of order, or we either went back to some stuff. She talked about growing up in foster care. Um, I also asked her what what's her sense of humor when it comes to movies. I think she said she hadn't watched a lot of movies or television lately, but some actors she really liked were John Candy, Steve Martin, George Carlin. I wrote sarcastic, campy. So she must have said that. Um, okay, I just wrote the word pneumonia and now I don't remember what that was related
All
to.
right, there's some details that may not be as helpful if we're not exactly
Do
sure
you remember her saying if
how
she
they were.
had pneumonia?
I don't remember. I don't remember that. Yeah.
Okay.
And I'll remind listeners, a lot of great information is in the survey. And, when you check the survey notes, she answered these questions and you could maybe get a pretty good idea of her personality. We're just trying to help flesh out what you would have missed or what you did miss in the interview.
Actually, I think I remember now because I asked her if she dresses up for Halloween, and I think she said one year she had pneumonia, so she said I just dressed up as a witch or something like that. And then there was another year that I think she put a lot more intention into it, and she said she dressed up as like a clown.
Okay.
Um, okay, so let's see, moving on from that. Um, okay, I think the rest of my notes are just um
Just little scribblies
They,
and pictures.
I think they were questions I wanted to ask and I didn't get around to for some
Yeah.
reason.
Well, I think
Uh,
we painted a pretty good portrait there.
I did ask her, do you change your emotions very quickly? Do you experience this and then you're mad and then you're over it and then you're happy? She said, no, my emotions are very steady or pretty steady. Um, she did, and then I wrote loves luxurious stuff and goth stuff. I think I had kind of like jotted that down, but I was trying to think about some other questions, so I didn't pay too close attention to that. But I think didn't oh, and we asked her about her hair, and I think she said that did she say something about a mohawk or
Yeah, you were trying to lean into that Leo stuff, and she said, "No, I don't really care that much about my hair." She had relatively short hair in the interview, but then she went on to say, "Yeah, I like to hack it off and do different things with it. I had a mohawk at one point in my life, and so it's up to you to decide how important her hair is or is not to her."
Mhm.
Um, but it was interesting that she kind of played around with her hair, but also didn't spend too much time trying to make it presentable for other people's approval or
Mhm.
for other people to enjoy. I don't know. I think we covered that a little bit in the debrief as well with her, so you can get some more details.
Hmm. That's pretty much all I wrote down.
Yeah.
So,
Well, so from that, we were leaning in the same direction.
hmm.
All of those things considered, I think that we had the Taurus sun versus the Cancer sun, which was my main focus. Cancer's being more emotional, as we talked about at the beginning of the show. I was factoring in things like being protective of her home, being very empathetic, as her friends were describing her, having some emotional things that she's been through. And the Taurus, I think she was talking about, well, when you said love's luxury, I don't remember her really saying that more than a typical person just said, like, I like nice things. But there were some Taurus traits that she was kind of, do you remember what some of those were? Like kind of Taurus traits, or what connections would you have made with the Taurus one?
Well,
Or you can speak to the Cancer one too if you want. And
yeah,
we're trying to keep it as even-handed as possible.
you're just trying to kind of paint it on both.
Yeah, yeah. Like she was slow and steady in the sense that um
I think you let people do their own
yeah, yeah,
work.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, well, at this point in the show, I think we can reveal the direction that we were leaning.
Hmm.
And maybe me trying to do the recap of how I was feeling explains why we were both leaning towards what do you
Cancer.
Cancer. One, two, three, Cancer. So we were both leaning towards the Cancer chart. Um, and you had many more detailed reasons than I did, but I was just kind of feeling, kind of what I was talking about, the protectiveness. There's some emotion involved that I think maybe she was trying to be a little bit guarded with, and have under control, as we all do sometimes, but in a Cancer kind of way that was steering me in that direction. Um, Anything you want to say towards your Cancer choice before we reveal, and then we'll discuss why we were right or
I
wrong?
think I'll discuss
All
after.
right. All right. So this is the part of the show. It's a little early in a normal episode, but this is the part of the show where we have our big reveal. Roxanne is not here to tell us if we're right or wrong, but luckily we already know the answer because this interview already happened. So, Sarah, will you do us the honors? We're choosing between a Cancer and a Taurus chart. Hopefully, at home, you guys have made your choices. Sarah, is Roxanne the Cancer?
No, Scott.
Oh, no.
And I feel so stupid now that we've read through everything and I just feel like such an idiot.
Well, let's connect a little bit of the dots right now because you mentioned that even since we did the debrief, which we'll get to in a little bit, we'll actually play you the debrief featuring Roxanne, and we were unpacking it right after the interview. But you've had a few days to reflect. So what did you want to share now before we take a commercial break and then let the audience hear from Roxanne as we kind of unpack the episode and the debrief?
Well, first of all, I do recall saying that I was very nervous about this and I was not feeling as confident as I normally am about my selection because I would like to just say where I was mentally at this moment when we did this interview, because I think I didn't feel like I could really think clearly or think straight because I had had a really crazy day and I had not done any of my research on these charts before coming into it. So I was really just winging it. And I absolutely hate winging things and not feeling prepared.
Sarah, that's your
Normally,
Virgo tendencies,
it
really.
is, Scott. It is actually. And yeah, and so
It's not my Virgo tendencies,
well,
though.
it's my Saturn in Virgo, which is my ruler. But anyway, so I like to feel prepared. And what I normally do is I go through the charts and I have certain things that I'm looking for, especially the health stuff. There's a lot of, as a student of medical astrology, I have a lot of notes on this that I will go back and I will take time to kind of write out the certain conditions I might be looking for. And just kind of like going into this blind and not having my notes there really like made me nervous. I felt like I couldn't think clearly. I think I already felt like I was going to get it wrong. And um I honestly feel like I if I had been prepared, I think I would have chose the Taurus chart because of her Aries stellium because she said a lot of things that I chose to ignore. She said she was
A
oh,
daredevil.
a daredevil, and I would jump out of a plane, and I do like to drive fast, and I have hives. The hives thing, um, okay, so I was looking at our other chart here, the Cancer chart, and she's there's a Leo rising with Saturn in Leo. So in my foggy brain, I was like, is that like hives? Is that a sun allergy? The thing is, though, that that chart has an Aquarius moon, and Aquarius moons tend to run cold, and Aquarius is the opposite of the sun's home. So you know, that is, I was trying to like, just in my own mind, does that logically make sense for someone who would have a sun allergy? I mean, I know you're an Aquarius and you don't really love being in the sun. Um, but this Aries stellium that she has, the moon, Mars, Venus, Mercury, that really is actually someone who runs very hot and that would very much like hives is very consistent with that and having a sun allergy. Um, I think early on she was talking about the mom thing. And I think I just decided early on, okay, I guess she's a Cancer. And then I was trying to make things fit and they weren't fitting. They weren't fitting and I ignored it. She said she was a daredevil. That's Aries.
But, for me, if we had chosen the Taurus and she turned out to be the Cancer, this conversation would be I got led by that daredevil thing, but she talked about how she was so motherly and protective and empathetic, and I just ignored it, and we should have chosen the Cancer chart.
No, but you're making assumptions. You don't know what I would have said.
But I feel like that's
I know
that
that's
that's
what
the
you
consistent thing is
feel.
is we look towards the other chart and then we see all the similarities in the other
See,
chart when that happens.
see, the Taurus thing is interesting because her sun is in the fifth house, which is the house that has to do with children. Um, so that and she's got the stellium in the fourth house of home. So anyway, I had a crazy day that day. I had my car towed. I had an issue with my eye. Um, I had no, I was not prepared. There was an eclipse that happened on my ascendant. So I was not, I don't feel like I made a good educated guess that I'm proud of. I feel like uh I kept asking her questions that um, you know, spoke to that's why I asked if she was I was trying to like just make sure that she wasn't the Taurus, and when she was saying yes to my Taurus chart questions I was like shit. I was like, but I don't see this other chart being a daredevil, so I don't know why I went with Cancer. I'm gonna plead that I was not thinking clearly.
Yeah. Well, I think the Aquarius kind of threw a maverick kind of wrench into that Cancer chart that made some of, at least for me, some of the more believable, it made me believe a little bit more of the wild side coming out, being like, fuck it, revolution time, baby. And you could argue that translates to a little bit of, fast driving, rule breaking. I don't believe that I need to be, following all of these rules or necessarily following a company structure if I don't feel like the person in charge is giving good advice or good orders. I need to be in that leadership role. We look back at that and see the Capricorn stuff, but I think at that time Aquarius was also like, this structure isn't right. I should be doing that. I should be the one kind of like setting the rules.
Capricorn risings and Taurus suns, that combination is really prone to taking on a lot of responsibility. She has so much responsibility. She's a leader at her place of work, and she has 8 children. And that Aries stellium is someone who can't sit still. So she was giving the answers that align with her chart.
We just weren't.
And I fucking blew it. Okay, I blew it. So looking at now that I also felt like I didn't have enough time. I didn't have any time to kind of like be alone with my thoughts. I was like, I just wish, I kept saying, I wish I had like 5 minutes to just like sit and like reflect on everything that she said and look at these charts. But we didn't do that, So the health conditions that I would predict or, that I would expect from this Cancer chart, which I was totally misreading, but the Leo rising, Saturn in Leo, that's going to be more issues around like heart, back, and hair. And she didn't really have any issues around those things. Aquarian moons run cold. They have issues with electricity sometimes. Yeah, so the lupus thing, though, I still have not had time to research. And I was wondering when I saw the Cancer Sun and the Virgo Mars if that was lupus indicators, but I don't know enough about it. So again, I just felt very unprepared and spacey when I gave my answer. So
well, hopefully listeners are feeling very prepared and made their choice and are enjoying us unpacking it now with a little bit more reflection a few days later. But we actually have the debrief segment to share on our regular podcast feed, so that's going to be coming up next. Anything you want to add for today, Sarah, before we send our guests to the debrief?
About what?
Or send our listeners to the debrief. Anything else you wanted to cover today?
I'm still at 80%.
All right. And everybody at home, what is your record? Share it in the comments. We really love hearing from you. We love interacting in the comments, so keep them coming. So we're going to have Roxanne on the debrief, and you can hear us kind of reflecting on some of these same points, but having her actual perspective and getting to actually hear from her. We've done enough talking, so let's let Roxanne do a little bit of talking. So check that out right after this break. Hey listeners, we're not just a podcast that tests astrology, we're an independent detective agency. That means we rely on you to help us keep the show running.
Exactly. By joining Astro Detectives on Patreon, you can support our mission to finally prove astrology is real.
Or, completely debunk it.
Here we go again.
One thing we can agree on, Astro Detectives is the only place you'll find astrologers and skeptics working together, like a buddy cop movie you didn't know you needed.
And trust me, detective work takes time, gathering evidence, late night stakeouts, solving cases, especially when Mercury's retrograde.
Okay, you can't blame Mercury.
The first step is easy and free. Just follow Astro Detectives on Patreon to get access to our debrief episodes where the conversation continues after each case ends. We break down what went right and what went wrong.
And if you want to fast track your training, become a rookie detective for only $3 a month. You'll unlock exclusive bonus episodes, plus early releases and the top secret case files sent straight to your inbox.
Or for just $1 a month, we'll make you an Astro intern. No compensation per se, but hey, you'll gain valuable detective experience and that warm fuzzy feeling knowing you're helping us keep the lights on.
So if you like what we're doing and want to support us, head over to patreon.com/astrodetectives and join the investigation today. Hey everybody, welcome to the debrief episode with Roxanne. This is following the case where we were guessing between the Cancer chart and the Taurus chart. That episode didn't get recorded, so this debrief is very important. You're going to find out if we got it right or wrong, and we have Roxanne with us to connect the dots on where we might have gone wrong. And Sarah is here to explain also why today is just all over the place in forgetting to record the show. There's some placements here and there, but we got it wrong. Both of us thought that Roxanne was a Cancer. She's actually a Taurus. Roxanne, do you identify with your chart very much? What do you know about kind of your placements, and does Taurus mean anything to you?
Taurus is my sun. I do, but I have a stellium and another.
Aries.
Yeah. So I think I'm much more Aries presenting, I believe.
Yeah. So okay. This is what was throwing me. This is why I was lacking confidence, because the other chart is a Cancer, and Cancers are very sensitive, and much more so than maybe a Taurus in general. However, your Taurus sun is conjunct Chiron, which is an asteroid. It's known as the wounded healer, and that's it's like our most sensitive wound. And when you have it conjunct your sun, that is, there is a real sensitivity. So it adds a whole layer of, I was like, okay, well, I'm seeing the sensitivity, but is that because of the Chiron or because of the Cancer sun? So, and then you're a Capricorn rising,
Mm-hmm.
and the other chart has Saturn, which is the ruler of Capricorn, in the first house. So again, it was like either way, there was a major Saturn influence. So those two things were really throwing me off, and that's
So
why I was kind of. What's that?
Whoever picks your charts did a good job of throwing you all the way off.
Well,
Well, wait.
the funny thing is we have our IT guy, Mike, our friend Mike, has developed this chartifier, which creates a chart that is so perfectly polar opposite. Ideally, like it's like there's so many factors that go into place to try to make there be as little overlap as possible, to the point where there's only 1 or 2 dates per 3-year period that are different enough, dates and times.
And sometimes, I mean, it does work very well most of the time. Occasionally we'll have something like this happen where, one chart is ruled by Saturn, the other has Saturn in its first house. So you're getting Saturn present, a dominant Saturn chart both ways. So, occasionally this happens,
Does a dominant Saturn like throw enough off that like the other factors of the chart don't show up, and make them more individual? Like they don't look different enough because of them both having Saturn?
Well, that's just one example of where these both have dominant Saturns, and they both have, like I was explaining, a Cancer sun in the 12th house versus a Sun conjunct Chiron on the IC, that there's a lot of sensitivity in both of those. So it's like, this is why I was just feeling like, okay, I don't feel like I'm thinking straight right now. And to be honest, didn't have a lot of time to prepare. I normally give myself like a whole day to prepare. No, I don't use a whole day, but I prepare the day before. I really study the charts and think through my questions. And today was chaotic and threw a wrench into everything. Just for our astrologer listeners, there was a solar eclipse yesterday. A solar eclipse is a very intense energy. It throws things, if you have a plan and there's a solar eclipse, it's going to throw things into, chaos mode. And
Help,
especially if it's right on your ascendant.
help me understand. I feel like a solar eclipse is when the sun is blocked, right?
Yeah. And
But
so,
we would have seen that. So what do you mean by solar eclipse if it's not the one where you get your little glasses out and you look up at the sun and the whole area goes dark?
well, the solar eclipse is not always going to be visible to where you are on the planet Earth. So sometimes it's going to be visible to other regions of the Earth.
So somewhere yesterday a solar eclipse happened.
Yes. So where I was, it was happening at like 6 in the morning. So I wasn't going to see it. But as far as my chart's concerned, it happened like 3 degrees away from my ascendant. Your ascendant in your chart is where the sun comes up over the horizon, and it has so much to do with you specifically in your chart. And so if something happens on your ascendant, you're going to have something manifest in your life that just is described by that energy.
You never even think about solar eclipses that happen at night.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But because
And
it's like if a tree falls in the woods, if a solar eclipse happens and you can't even see the sun, did it even happen?
oh, it sure did, Scott. And we get 4 of them a year. Okay. We actually get 2 in the spring and 2 in the fall. And we get them kind of in pairs. And so we had the first one yesterday, and the second one will come in about 3 weeks. And the time in between is called eclipse season. And so it's not really advisable to plan things during eclipse season and just expect them to not go awry.
All right. Well, we're going to a wedding this weekend. It's going to be exciting.
Yeah.
You can plan, maybe you get a discount if you plan your wedding during eclipse season. Wouldn't that be funny?
Yeah. They should offer a discount for that. But so if an eclipse happens to fall astrologically, like this eclipse was at like 28 degrees of Aquarius, and my ascendant is at 25 degrees of Aquarius. So I was like bracing myself, and your ascendant, your first house is like relates to your physical body. And I ended up getting like a rash around my eye and some swelling around my eye, and I had to go to the doctor today. Well, I couldn't go to the doctor because my car was towed. So I had to deal with that first, and that took hours. And, so this whole eclipse, as I mentioned, was in Aquarius. Aquarius is ruled by Saturn. Saturn today is just entered the sign of Aries, which happens to be my third house. So Saturn creates delays, complications, hindrances for third house things for me, which are transportation, like automobiles, or maybe like a podcast.
Yeah, but it's not happening in my house.
Well, it's happening in a different way in your chart, but anyway, that's why I was like told Scott, I was like, I think we might have to cancel because I don't know if I'm going to be back on time. But then I felt bad. I was like, I didn't want you to have to reschedule, Roxanne. So I was like, we'll just wing it, which I hate winging it. I hate winging it. And and it was kind of comical because Roxanne, as you were trying to connect, there was some, you were having some issues connecting, and I was like, this is all going to a plan. I knew there were going to be issues, and then we forgot to record. So, Anyway, the astrology is still astrologing. Astrology still works.
Life still happens. Astrology
Mirrors life.
astrology says, "Oh, that's what happened? Well, let me tell you something in the stars that relates to that." And
Yeah,
there's a
keep
million
working
little
on that.
patterns you can bring out. Roxanne, since we didn't get the interview portion recorded, I wonder if we could just kind of recap some of the main things that, and maybe what if you relate at all to, your Taurus sun or some of the other stuff going on in your chart, and maybe how they relate to aspects of your life. We talked about, childhood was a little bit rough.
Hmm.
Working in a circus environment, no,
Carnival.
Literal carnival. So I mean, it's
carnival
might as well be
stuff.
a circus.
Is there anything in your chart that you kind of like find relevant there?
No, I
No.
don't know where that.
We had
Can I can answer that.
now, yeah.
Please.
But if someone was kind of like trying to choose between these two charts, kind of a tough upbringing, shy. Well, you were told that you were never shy, but you felt like you were shy or younger, but then at some point made a transition and felt much more outgoing.
Yes.
And then at work, you kind of described yourself as being motherly or taking care of people. Can you kind of expand on that a little bit again?
I've been called the mom at work. And because I make sure that my associates are taken care of first and foremost, that, they got what they need, but also I'm giving them direction. And sometimes I'm very direct with the direction. I'm like, okay, I need you to do this. I need you to do that. I, I'll have, 15 people under me at one night. And I'm like, okay, at the end of the night, I'm like, you here, you here, you here, you here. And they're like, okay.
You thrive. It sounds like you thrive in the chaos.
um, yeah, it doesn't hold me back at all. The chaos, I'm just like,
Yeah,
lean into it stuck.
when I asked if you were daring and you said yes, I was surprised because I was already kind of thinking you were the other chart. But when you said that, I was like, oh, well, this Taurus has this Aries stellium, and that's why I was asking if you're accident prone, if you had, trouble with focus issues, because it's very Aries stellium. So you said yes to all those things, and I still was like, no, I think she's a Cancer. I should have listened to you. I should have listened to you. Your sun, interestingly, shows up in the fifth house, whole sign house, and that is the house of children. So I was trying to quickly like look at these two charts, and I'm like, well, again, the Taurus chart is saying children. There's an emphasis here. And I still went with the Cancer chart. I was really just getting in my own way. I had latched on to that, but just, I guess, kind of the lupus that you mentioned and the sensitivity and the mom. And I think you mentioned that you like to give sentimental gifts and crochet. So I was kind of like maybe that's can that's why I kind of was like I wish I had some time to research lupus and see how that shows up astrologically, but
I've had
this
people ask if I was a Cancer before.
oh really
Yes.
interestingly.
I'm like, nope.
The hives was really interesting, or the sun allergy. I'm gonna say that's probably with all this Aries that you have going on, you may be prone to dehydration or overheating, things like that. Do you feel like you're
So
dehydrated?
I have a 60-ounce Yeti bottle and I drink that all night long. Just filled with water. Water is my favorite beverage.
Now,
I'm
here's
constantly drinking.
what's
Same.
tough as a driver, though, is finding those bathrooms to stop at. You got to have a couple places in mind, and especially at night, more places.
Upper Midwest, you have Quick Trip. If you were ever in Wisconsin, Minnesota, Quick Trip is the place to stop. They are clean 24/7. The food is good, and they're open 24/7. So
And one other thing we covered in the episode that didn't get recorded is that you have a nocturnal schedule. So I do wonder if you can kind of expand on, how you feel about the night and how you make that work with your schedule.
I've always been a night owl. So my mom would yell at me when I was a kid because I'm so old that when the TV programs would go off, there was like a buzzing noise. It was like, meow, when the TV program shut down. And she would wake up because of that and be like, Roxanne, go to bed. I've always been awake in the middle of the night. So working at night seems natural to me. It just seems it's peaceful, it's quiet. I can get so much done in the middle of the night because people aren't in my way.
And then
And you were born at night too, at 11:57.
So I think that my personal belief is that people who are born at night are the nocturnal ones, just from my kids, because I have one that was born at 6 o'clock in the morning and she's a morning person. I'm like, bless your heart, I can't.
And then what blows me away is that on weekends or on your days off, you completely flip to a daytime schedule.
So I work 4 days on 11-hour shifts, and then I have 3 days off. So my first day off, I am completely useless. I'm not going to lie. I try to get a nap in. It's usually about 4 hours of sleep, and then I will pass out for a good 12 hours to flip my schedule back over.
And that comes from a commitment to family that you want to be able to spend time with your kids.
Yep. Yeah. I need to be able to spend time with my kids for me, for them. It's not like, well, of course I want to, but it's like internal, like I have to.
One other area that we got into that I found fascinating was you were a thrill seeker. And can you kind of remind us about that?
So we use scissor lifts at work, and I want to say it goes 50 feet into the air, something like that. Last year I was hanging flags with my boss, and he was operating it, and we get all the way up in the air. And so when a scissor lift is in the air, it's got the little scissor spikes together to hold it. So when you're up there, it's kind of wobbly. And I started swinging it back and forth and laughing. And he was screaming at me to please stop and sitting down.
Oh my gosh.
Which caused me to laugh more. I would love to go skydiving. I love roller coasters. I love driving fast.
I just don't know why I was not. Honestly, when we before we met you and I just read through the survey response, I was leaning towards this Taurus chart. But I think that when you said, "Oh, people call me mom," I was seduced by the Cancer.
Oh, for sure. And home was very important to you. And you're careful to share your emotions, you said, with other people unless they're already trusted.
Yeah.
Which is, for us reading the Cancer chart, was very Cancer. And that you're, comfortable at home. Tauruses are comfortable at home too. But that you were kind of protective of your home too. And
Yes.
yeah. Got that little shell of protection. Protect that home.
I prefer it that way. That way it's my own little sanctuary always.
Well, yeah, well, I just regret that we didn't take more time to get ourselves straight for you. So I apologize for that.
This is going to lead to a new format where we just basically do a debrief. We do a pre-interview that is not recorded, and then we just start recording and give everybody the results. And we kind of recap the interview and just pull out the highlights.
Yeah, it was difficult getting Zoom to work. Multiple devices for me before it worked. I was like, oh, what is going on?
Do you feel like you struggle with technology often, or no?
No. No. So today I was like, oh, this is horrible.
Yeah, I think there's Yeah, I think there's some uh, transits going on that are messing with the technology or mirroring the technology. I don't know.
Let's see. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I feel like we covered a lot of the main points that we hit with the interview. Like there was certain music that you like to listen to that makes you cry. Fleetwood Mac. I love listening to
Yes.
songs that get me emotional. But maybe
Yes.
what is it about that you mentioned like one particular song?
Landslide. I grew up with it. So my mom would be singing and dancing through the house while cleaning, and I do that. But sometimes I need to ugly cry while I'm doing it because my emotions are overwhelming. So when the kids are in school, that's what I do. Or when I'm at work and it is an absolutely chaotic night, I put in one earbud and I put in something, some alternative from the 90s, and I am jamming out, dancing, and I'll see one of them pop their head around and they're like, "What are you doing?" This is my form of decompressing.
So crying and dancing like no one's looking.
Yeah.
Well, I took notes, Scott, so maybe we can do a little write up or something.
Yeah. Or maybe this is the episode.
I don't know.
This is a preview for everybody of what the debriefs are normally like. We get into the details of the chart. Anything now, Sarah, that you're kind of looking at, connecting the dots with Roxanne for that Taurus chart?
I mean, everything, like I really just gonna blame it on the fact that I just did not feel grounded, or I didn't feel like I was thinking clearly. I felt very like rushed and panicked because didn't really give myself the right amount of prep time. And I felt like I was just trying to, you know, think on the fly, which is never good for me. But yeah, I mean, Roxanne, you're a Capricorn rising. Capricorn risings often start working from a younger age. They usually are very mature young adults. And then having your son in the fifth house. I was thinking about that when you said working in carnivals, because the fifth house is like, and you also mentioned performance and things like that. That's the house of like fun and activities and, I would say probably amusement parks, fall in there, or acting, anything like that. And children, and so those are big themes in your life. Aries energy is very daring, courageous, hard to sit still. And yeah, I just you told us your chart and I wasn't grounded or listening, so I apologize.
Well, I think you're downplaying a little bit of the stuff that we saw, both of us, that led us in the wrong direction towards the Cancer chart. I mean, that Cancer sun, you saying you were so empathetic, and being able to kind of read people easier than most because you're so in tune with their emotions. You having your emotions that you keep guarded, but share when you need to. Being so protective of your home, it being very important for you. Then the fake chart had this Aquarius moon, which led both Sarah and I when you said you don't like what was it, rules, or you will stand up to authority.
Yes.
I was more reading that as the Saturn emphasis.
Mm,
Saturn, especially Saturn in Leo in the first house, is going to have a problem with anyone trying to boss them around. But so would a Capricorn rising because it's ruled by Saturn. So Saturn is the authority. It doesn't want to be, bossed around. And so had, if Saturn wasn't in this Leo chart, in the first house, that would have definitely been a major leg up for me to, you know, but it's going to happen occasionally.
yeah. And then that Leo rising on the fake chart, you know, you were saying you wanted to be on stage, even though at an early age you were like, the nerves were there. And then now you're basically presenting in front of people on a daily basis. And you like the idea of being on stage. You're like, yeah, sign me up for this podcast too. And then Sarah was kind of asking some questions about hair. And initially you said, oh, I don't really care about it that much, which would have like sent us away from that Leo rising. But then you said, oh, but I cut it into a mohawk. I love to change it. I love the fact that it always grows back and I can keep doing different things. And suddenly, you know, your hair actually sounds like, you know, an important part of the identity. It's not that you're just trying to make it beautiful to show off the same, but you're having a lot of fun with it.
Scott, you're really sounding like an astrologer now.
I know. Well, I mean, I feel like Sarah, sometimes as soon as we find out which one's the right chart, you like drop that fake chart like a bad habit. You're like, no, there's nothing in that chart that relates to the person. And I'm like, we were just in love with this chart. We just looked at this.
I was never in love with that chart. And I even said, I don't know. Like,
well, right. But we could see her in both charts. And so that's where I'm saying a lot of the stuff that we saw in that Cancer Sun chart, just kind of reminding us and reminding the audience, well, not reminding the audience because they never got to hear us talk about it the first time.
Well, see, a Leo rising does care about their hair, but a Saturn rising there creates problems for it, you know, or is probably going to, like, so when she said she cut off her hair, I was like, okay, that might be the Saturn influence there. So, you know, I don't know. I don't know. But
like, I don't pay particularly much attention to my hair. I'm a Leo moon, but as a kid, I liked changing it. Like when you were saying, oh, I did a mohawk here. I was like, oh, I would dye my hair sometimes, different times, you know, just like what fun can you have with your hair? It keeps growing back.
Yeah. Well, the Leo moon is not as concerned with the hair as the Leo rising or maybe the Leo sun. Leo moons are my favorite moon. They're very they have a very childlike side. They're very, you know, charming and charismatic.
Oh, stop, Sarah. Stop it.
Well, you keep it private because it is in the 12th house, so it's when you're more comfortable.
I tried to put that childish side out front.
Yeah, we know.
So, let's see, Roxanne, did you have any questions maybe about things going on in your chart? It's not like Sarah had time to do a full deep dive into it, but she might be able to kind of answer some little things here and there. What have you heard about your chart?
That I'm bossy. I like comfort, but then with all of the Aries placements, it kind of knocks those out of the park because I'm bold and just gonna do whatever anyways.
And Roxanne, you and I are currently the same age, so I know something about your chart is that have you had some experiences over the last, you know, 8 months where you had a change in career or a promotion or something significant happen with career?
I got my promotion 18 months ago.
Okay.
So no.
Okay, so no. You're 46?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that something that you're considering or thinking about? Or
yes, I am striving to go up one more level because the pay quadruples. So
Ooh, that's a good level.
Yeah, I mean, or truthfully, I've always wanted to be a therapist. I'm not going to lie. I would love to go and do that.
Yeah, if you find the fastest track to that, you let me know.
I have never found a fast track. I have looked and I'm like, I don't have the attention span to go through school.
Yeah. So you can't just call yourself a life coach and start seeing people and say, look, I'm not promising any accreditation. I'm just a good listener and I can read people. So come on, tell me your problems.
I do tell them I'm not a therapist, but I'll play one on TV if you like.
Spoken like a Leo.
That's a good question I should have asked you, is if you struggle with patience, like, are you very impatient? And I mean, I feel like you kind of said that because you were talking about how you're very restless and moving around a lot.
It depends. So patience for kids, for the most part, yes. If it's like high-pitched noises, no, I have no patience for that.
But maybe not patience for jumping into something. Are you not as cautious? You're more like you said, just fucking do it.
Yes,
Right.
I'm not gonna hold back. No, I'm just gonna jump in and go.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, I, I don't know where we're going with this, Scott. So
Well, I think we've done a nice little recap of the missing episode. This is a debrief for the ages. We've covered both what we normally do in a debrief and some of the highlights of the interview itself. So thank you, Roxanne, for being flexible with us and for sharing so much of your story. Even if we ended up on the wrong chart, it's always a pleasure to meet people and to really get to know them and hear about how we're all individuals. We're all different. We got different things ticking. And so it was really fun to hear you share your story. And
Thank you for having me.
yeah. And we will look forward to next time, everybody, where Scott will hit the record button at the beginning of the episode and we'll get the full interview. You can go back and check other interviews, but we hope that this was a fun little change of pace where this debrief hopefully represented the entire episode. And I'm not going to do the whole readout. I mean, I guess I could since there's not one for the other one. That's it, everyone. Let us know what you thought by commenting on whatever platform you follow us on. Links to our accounts are in the show notes. Thanks to Mike, our IT guy, for giving us these charts that threw us off. If you like the show and want to support it, you can visit patreon.com/AstroDetectives, where this conversation just continued on the debrief, which you are currently listening to. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform or YouTube so you don't miss the next episode. Unless I forget to record it, then you will miss it. Rate and review and tell your friends. And until next time, this case is closed.